Hey everybody, and today we're going to be talking about Path of Exile 2. In particular, we're going to be talking about help for my good warrior friends in Path of Exile 2. Why do my warrior friends seem to need a lot of help? Because no one really seems to be telling warriors what to do to actually excel in this game. Now, I myself, before I say anything in this video, I am not some Path of Exile guru. I think about 120 hours into Path of Exile 1, and that was over like 12 years. I was an original founder of the game back when it first launched, and it never really clicked with me, and I never really liked the game. Path of Exile 2, if you do not go to Reddit, because I would not recommend going to Reddit right now because it's just very, very negative generally about the game. A lot of people seem to be playing warrior and not really doing that good. And me, I play a lot of games. And so when I start having problems with games like this, I start Googling around and I start asking my friends and everyone, and I start, being like, okay, so what's going on here? Is this class or is this thing really that bad? What can I do to do better, And I do rage, of course, and rant, but at the end of the day, you have to get back in it. We might fail the Ascendancy trial 20 times in a row, but we need to figure out, okay, we failed 20 times in a row, but what can we do to get better, to get stronger, to actually win this dang thing in the end? So warriors are very gear dependent, and no one really seems to be telling anyone how to actually get gear to be good on this class. Now, I'm going to be doing two things in this video. One, I'm going to be just telling you generally how to build gear. Two, I'm going to be telling you how to build warrior gear. And then three, I'm going to give you some pointers on what nodes to put talents in, or skills, or whatever you want to call it, so that you can do a little bit better in the early game. Now, I'm not some Path of Exile guru. I'm just a dude who spent some time looking around and realized really quick how you can double and then triple and quadruple your DPS in really rapid succession. Now, of course, I've beaten the campaign, I've beaten Act 1, I've beaten Act 2, I've beaten Act 3, so I've definitely, I've done it myself, I've gone through this. It's definitely doable. And I have done it as a primarily left-click build because I enjoy my left-click. I like bonking people. I didn't do anything special. I didn't do any outrageous new strategy that hasn't been done before. I just made my gear really good and picked talents that hit people hard so that I could bonk people through the axe. Now, obviously, I don't think my damage is some crazy thing, but without some tips, let's just say I would not have done very well. So, first off, I want to open up my notepad right here. You need to engage with the mechanics of the game. A lot of people who play Path of Exile 1 or Diablo, these games are easy. They are ridiculously easy. I'm sorry to say, but these are some of the easiest games on the market right now. They are babified. I'm sorry, but it's just true. Now, I'm not saying that you personally are like a bad player or anything like that. I'm just saying that bad habits have been picked up where people don't really give it 100%. Path of Exile 2 very much seems to be going for that, let's say, Dark Souls, Elden Ring kind of difficulty. And I'm not trying to say it's a Dark Souls, Elden Ring like. What I'm trying to say, I've seen a lot of similarities to how the developers of Path of Exile 2 and the developers of Dark Souls have acted, in that they need the game to be difficult because they need you as a player to be struggling and going into the game's mechanics and actually trying your hardest in order to win. Now, how do you win then as a fighter? Well, let's go over the mechanics right now. When you pick up items, generally you'll get lots of items such as the Orb of Augmentation, augments a magic item with a new random modifier, and the Orb of Transmutation, which upgrades a normal item into a magic item with one modifier. Now, what do these mean? There's a modifier on your weapon that you will generally need 100% of the time. That is increased physical damage, and you will need this modifier to be very high. 75% increased physical damage is the highest damage modifier in the game. All modifiers take one spot, so this can be combined with any other modifiers you're seeing here. I've got some pretty good ones on this one. And this 73% increased physical damage is giving me, I don't know, it's like 30 to 50 damage, which is far higher than any other damage modifier could roll, because this affects my base numbers, which then get multiplied by all the skills and everything else. This is a considerable, absolutely insane amount of damage. If I was to compare this to this weapon, this one has 107 to 144, this is 63 to 129. If I was to just swap these out real quick, you can see that my DPS went up 400. So, and I just wanted to show that real quick. Obviously, I know these items are on different tiers. I just wanted to show you real quick, an upgrade to your weapon can result very, very quickly in absolutely a ludicrous amount of damage. So how do we guarantee that we get this increased physical damage? Well, there's multiple ways to do it. One, we pick up multiple of an item that we want. So for example, if we know that there's one weapon, it's the newest two-handed mace. It's the highest tier from whatever's dropping from you right now. And I pick up 3 or 4 of those in white quality, just common quality. What I can do is roll these items, and this is just engaging with the mechanics of the game. It's not too complicated. Okay, I'm hoping, I don't really play these sorts of games, and if you don't either, this will probably help you a lot. All you're gonna do is, items have a certain amount of, let's call them modifiers. Now, modifiers do depend on rarity, but in a way, for now, let's say that modifiers and rarity are a totally different thing, because in a lot of ways they are. Rarity gives you the ability to have more modifiers, but it doesn't make them bigger, it doesn't make them stronger or anything, it just gives you the ability to have more. So a common item, or sorry, an uncommon item with 2 good modifiers could very easily beat a rare item with 4 bad modifiers. So you pick up this white item and you do this thing, where is it, right here, upgrades a normal item into a magic item with 1 modifier. Now generally that first modifier will probably be something decent, but I've rolled duds constantly. I was trying to upgrade my current mace, and I think I picked up like 8 whites of the weapon I wanted to upgrade, and all of them just rolled crap. So sometimes you just get duds, but generally, so long as you need to get that first big weapon upgrade, this is a good way to do it. You upgrade a normal item into a magic item with 1 modifier. If you like how that first modifier looks, if it was percent increased damage, even if it was like 30% or 40%, or even if it was just increased physical damage, a flat amount, or even flat fire damage or anything like that, you can then use Orb of Augmentation. Augments a magic item with a new random modifier. Now, uncommon items can have up to 2 modifiers. If these first 2 modifiers look good, you can then use the more rare Regal Orb, which upgrades a magic item into a rare item with another modifier. Now, rare items can have up to 6 modifiers, and you can find items to increase the modifiers in rare items, but you can very easily, so long as you're curating your items, you can very easily set up an item to be very strong without actually finding it in the field. Some people complain that they cannot find good items out there, that they go and they clear and they can't find good items. You are finding good items. You're just not finding them built already. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so if we look at this salvage bench, in fact, let's not look there for now. Let's look at Una. Una allows us to disenchant items. When I go to disenchant a rare item, I get 1 Regal Shard. 10 Regal Shards become a Regal Orb. A Regal Orb, remember, allows us to turn a magic item into a rare item with another modifier. So if I disenchant 10 rares, I can make any item I want into a rare. As you can see here, all those crap rares you're finding that don't do anything, you could sell them, sure, and we'll get into that later, or you could turn them into Regal Orbs, allowing you to get at least a couple good rare items that would be significantly more usable to you. Now that is one way to do it, and the other way to do it that a lot of people say is just sell your item. Is selling your item good? Is getting a lot of gold good? Yes, actually, very good. Very good, actually. See, I currently think gambling is rigged, and I mean that. That's not a joke. I actually do think gambling is rigged. I think the developers have hinted on it, and I very much felt like gambling is rigged. And by that, what I mean is it very much does seem that when you gamble for items, it won't always give you the best item, but I've seen way too many items, way too many weapons that I've gambled for that have ended up rolling bizarrely good modifiers, and a lot of them. Now, you are limited as to how many times you can gamble. This vendor has limited stock. More stock is accrued by killing unique monsters up to the given limit. So of course you have to kill unique monsters, which gives you more options to gamble, but I would keep this almost zeroed out. Until you actually have a good set of gear, there's no reason that you should have any gambling available. You should be gambling as much as you can, spending all your money trying to get good items into your gear, because the most important thing you can do is by getting good gear. So this is how you obtain good gear. Now, what gear do you want then as a warrior? Well, we did talk about this earlier. You know, actually, let me go over one more thing, because we're just wrapping this up real quick. The whole salvaging and all that. Any item you find with sockets, or any item you find with the superior label, you can bring here to the salvage bench and you can break it down. And once you break it down, that of course gives you the things like the blacksmith's whetstones and the artificer's orbs. The artificer's orbs allows you to add a socket to an item. Now you will find these dropped uncommonly, but you know, around. So adding a rune socket to a martial weapon allows you to add another damage modifier. So if I added a socket to this weapon here, I never did, but maybe I should have. I could then decide to add another like 6 to 10 cold damage, or I could add another 20% increased physical damage, or I could add 1 to 20 lightning damage, 7 to 11 fire, blah, 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 blah. Do you get the idea? More socket, more powerful on your weapon. The second thing you do is a whetstone. Whetstone improves the quality of a weapon. Now you can see here quality +7. I'm not entirely sure on what this means. Don't quote me 100% here, okay? But I believe this means that it does 7% increased damage, or maybe it's 7% increased base physical damage. It's somewhere around them. Basically what this means is the more you have whetstones, the more you've disenchanted these superior items, or sorry, I should say salvage them, the more you salvage these socketed items, the more you get the capability of increasing the quality of your weapon. And if you have a good weapon and it has rolled good modifiers and you do increase the quality of it, you can find yourself dramatically increasing your DPS by just good inventory management and just good item management. So then let's talk about what do you want on your items? I've gone over, here's how we can try to get some good items, but you're thinking to yourself, okay, but what good items do I want? What modifiers am I looking for? I don't know this game. Well, this is actually more simple than you're thinking, because once I tell you this, it's going to become really, really obvious. I don't say that in a mean way. I mean that in a no one's ever told you this way. Number one, any weapon past midway Act 2 that doesn't have a large increased physical damage modifier is likely going to be useless. Unless your item rolls absolutely insane on every other stat, there's basically no way that it can match increased physical damage. Because here's the thing, increased physical damage will generally outperform any other modifier by a considerable degree. Remember, that's just one modifier slot. This weapon has 6 modifiers. The increased physical damage 73% is only one single modifier. There's almost no way that you can go without this. And I myself personally went from having, I think I was slowly eking my way up 500, 600, 700 DPS. And once I noticed this modifier and people told me, yeah, you basically need this modifier, I went to 1100 DPS. I went from 700 to 1100. For those of you keeping track, that's like a 60% damage increase just because I actually noticed that this modifier. This isn't the weapon I used, obviously, but I've never gone without this modifier. So if you have a weapon, generally, unless it like perfect rolls every other modifier, the increased physical damage in large quantities is the single best modifier you can get that will contribute the absolute largest to your DPS increase. Now, what else can you do, my good warrior friends? What else can you do to try to make yourself do more damage, to actually be relevant? You're probably complaining, you look at other classes, they do more damage than you. Well, they'll probably always do more damage than you, but you can close that gap. How is that? Well, there are 2 additional items you can get more damage on, rather than stalling for time. Did I say to like and subscribe? If you guys are still here, make sure to like and subscribe. I have to say that it works for the algorithm. I'm making this video because a lot of people don't understand this, and it basically, it helped me to understand this, so it'll probably help you to understand this, okay? Rings. Rings can roll more damage to attacks. They can either roll additional physical damage to attacks, or they can roll elemental damage to attacks. Of course, because this applies to your base damage, this can be rather substantial increases to your damage. I myself found an iron ring, and I just slowly increased it until it was a pretty powerful iron ring. Iron rings will always give 1 to 4 physical damage to attacks, so what you should probably be doing, and this is actually another good way to find these good items, buy and sell items, and always check kind of on Una in Act 1, on other characters and other acts, check down here and just see if they have a ring or an amulet or something you can buy. These iron rings are candy to you, okay? You really need them. I didn't actually ever get 2 good ones, but I think my emerald ring was just fine too. But these iron rings can go absolutely nuts. If we actually look at my DPS right here, to give you some perspective, this ring alone here is worth 130 DPS on its own. Just keep that in perspective, okay? Now, another item that can roll damage are gloves. That's right, actually gloves can roll flat damage to attacks. As you might imagine, once again, this one, the gloves I'm using right now don't have damage, but I didn't really need the damage, but these gloves with their 6 to 10 physical damage can add, that is 70, yes, count it, 75 damage. It's actually 78 damage, but you get the idea, right? 78 damage because it rolled 6 to 10 physical damage on attacks. That's just a blue item. I use this blue item for the majority of my run because it gave me an absolute crap load of damage. You don't need to make these rare items. Items with 2 good modifiers can be far more valuable than a rare item with 4 bad modifiers. That is something very important to keep in mind. So you, my good warrior friends, you are looking at, you want a weapon with increased physical damage. That's very important. You want rings with damage and you want gloves with damage. Do you need all of them all at the same time? Probably not. Do you need as many as you can get? Absolutely. This is how you increase your damage as a physical damage class, and this is how you continue to scale. Now, the last thing I'm going to give you as advice, because I noticed it really quickly myself by just staring at this tree a lot, but you guys probably haven't noticed this, or you did something yourself. I had a friend who was doing like 350 DPS. I told him to just respec, and simply by just respecing and changing around his points, he went to 600 DPS. So to say, what I'm about to tell you is outrageously important. So when you start, it doesn't matter where you start. Where you're going to end up? Here. Just go here. If you're using 2-handed weapons, if you're a warrior with 2-handed weapons, which the majority of you are, I know it. You don't want to play safe. You don't want to use a shield. Of course you don't. You're courageous, okay? But sometimes courage is stupidity in a different word. But anyway, this node here is what you need to go to. Let me zoom out so you can see it. You start here. You need to work your way down here. Along the way, you can get increased armor and increased break. So you can break more armor with your break attack, increased physical damage 25%, break more armor, increased physical. This right here, these are 2 good points to put into on your way. And then down here, this is 12% more damage with 2-handed, 12% with 2-handed, 12% with 2-handed, 12% with 2-handed, 12% with 2-handed, 10 dexterity and accuracy, so you stop missing so much, 10 to strength and increased AoE range for your attacks, then 5% reduced attack speed, but 20% more stun buildup and 40% more damage with 2-handed weapons. This right here is the majority of damage you'll need until like Act 3. I started to go into a Fury tree myself over here because Fury is just free damage with this tree. I'm not really sure that was a developer intent, but once you go down here and you grab this tree, you can then also go down here and get attack speed, accuracy. You can go down here and get accuracy at close range. This part right here, if you're doing a 2-handed build, is absolutely vital. Now, if you're doing 1-handed builds, this doesn't help you. And I didn't do a 1-handed build, so I can't help you. But for all you guys doing 2-handed builds who actually want to do the ascendancy bonus and you're going crazy because you don't know how every other class is doing it, it's because these nodes right here are so ludicrous much damage. It's night and day with and without them, I promise you. Okay, that's the only advice I'm going to give you right now. So number 1, learn to manage your items, learn to go back to base to sell, to disenchant, to salvage, learn to do that, learn to manage your stash, learn to get good items in here, learn to stop complaining about uniques, because I actually do get enough unique drops. I've actually stored a lot of them and I've even given some of them away to my friends. I don't know who keeps complaining about unique drops. What else was I going to say? But generally speaking, oh, here's a random iron ring I rolled, by the way. I kept this around. This is one I just rolled early in the game. I just found an iron ring and I just added 2 modifiers to it. And I was like, neat, these are pretty good modifiers. Kept it around, pretty good iron ring, right? And that's just what you do. That's what you have to do as a fighter. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you guys this. Fighter players, warrior players, melee players, here's the problem. You need better gear to keep up with the other classes. Now, it's debatable right now. There seems to be a bit of back and forth on who scales better, physical damage or magic damage. Some people seem to think it's physical damage. Some people seem to think it's magical damage. At either rate, physical damage needs items, and they need intelligence, not the stat. I mean, just you as a person. You need to be smart, and you need to be managing your items, and you need to keep all your gear up to date. You need to keep your armor up to date. You need to keep your survivability up to date. And importantly, you need to keep this damage up to date. Mages can coast around without needing to do this as much, but you fighters, you definitely cannot. You warriors, you definitely cannot. It is very important that you do this. And again, I promise you, once you learn to do this, you will feel a lot better about your life, and you'll feel a lot better about your class. So that's all I have to say. Thank you all for watching. Maybe I'll do a longer video later. This is just a general tip, because I see so many fighters with such ludicrously low DPS, and I think to myself, you guys could be doing better with actually just the tiniest bit of knowledge. I know you're smart enough to do better. Okay, so thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. We'll do some more videos on Path of Exile, I'm sure, but this is just what I wanted to do. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.